My name is Jasper, and I'm a chartered professional accountant, and currently I work for Home Trust Edmonton as a financial accountant. But I also
Mm-hmm.
have my own stuff that's going on the side called
Mm-hmm.
MJN Chartered Professional Accountant, where pretty much I can help anyone that's interested with
Mm-hmm.
tax issues, audit, financial services, business services, setting up
Mm-hmm.
your company, all the fun stuff, but for a
Yeah,
fee, of course.
definitely, definitely. Okay, so what inspired you to get started in this profession?
To be quite honest, my favorite uncle, and I can probably say from all my mother's brothers, he seemed to be the
Mm-hmm.
one that was, doing the right things, going to church, and he was an accountant and making it more than all those. So, hey, you know what? That might be a good profession. Took me a while, but I finally got it.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Okay. So what did you want to do before this, or you kind of knew you always wanted to do this?
Well, it was a choice between professional accounting or sound engineering, but you know how it is when you tell African parents you want to be a sound engineer, it's like, you want to go
What
do
is
what?
that? Mm-hmm.
In our language, they say, radio, play the radio, they don't get the whole picture. So I thought, you know what,
Mm-hmm.
might as well do the accounting.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. So what does a typical day of a chartered professional accountant look like?
See, a chartered professional accountant it's pretty diverse,
Mm-hmm.
because I'll tell you a day from my what I do. But before, because I just moved to Home Trust Edmonton, which
Mm-hmm.
is totally different now from before. I used to work for KRP as an auditor.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll probably give you both, I guess. I'll start with KRP, where pretty much all you get was clients bring in their files, you set up the financial statements, and
Mm-hmm.
you prepare the tax return. Or if it's an audit, you go out to a client, audit stuff, which entails sometimes asking for documents from the client. Some are good clients, some are grumpy clients. You get all
Mm-hmm.
that, and typical day will be coming in and talking to the bosses and wondering, okay, what's the deadline? Kind of
Mm-hmm.
prepare for my day
Mm-hmm.
and start looking out the files. Sometimes you might have 2, 3, 4 files going at one time, so you have to learn how to, okay, which one is the deadline? What can I do? And while you're waiting on information from the
Mm-hmm.
client, then put one aside and do the other. But
Mm-hmm.
now for Homework Trust, it's pretty much now I'm on the other side of where I'm now more the one putting the information in to the system instead of auditing the information. So I come here to make sure. First thing is make sure all my bank accounts are not overdrawn. I have cash flow to sign out checks and stuff. Next
Mm-hmm.
thing I see if I wait for my accounts payable and my accounts receivable to send me invoices. I review the
Mm-hmm.
invoices, they put them in, and
Mm-hmm.
then once they put them in, I tell them, okay, go ahead and print checks once if I've approved them. And
Mm-hmm.
after that, it's just making sure everything is in place. I do my month end. If it's just like right now, working on the month end, it's
Mm-hmm.
trying to get everything that was for February into the system so that we can actually close the month in about a week or so.
Mm-hmm. So is being an accountant, is it mostly working in a team or it's mostly individual work or it's a mix?
It, it's a it's a mix. Say
Mm-hmm.
from KRP, if you're doing your auditing, it's pretty much you have some files that you do on your own. You'll ask questions, but pretty much you'll
Mm-hmm.
do your own. And once you're done, you send it to your supervisor. They approve it. If they want you to change a few things, you change a few things. But pretty much you're doing most of it by
Mm-hmm.
yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're going on an audit, usually most audits will be a teamwork. It's like 3 or 4 people.
Oh,
So
okay.
you'll be
Mm-hmm.
divided, okay, okay, you're going to do one section of the audit, the other person going to do another section of the audit, another person going to do another section of the audit, and
Mm-hmm.
then you wrap it up, depending on whether you're playing you're the lead, the team lead
Mm-hmm.
on that particular audit, then you get to do the financial statements and all the fun stuff. Or if you're a junior on the audit, then probably you do a few sections and be done with it and move on.
Mm-hmm.
But when you come to the real life, it's more of teamwork. Where I work now, it's more of
Mm-hmm.
teamwork because in order for me to do my job, the accounts payable person needs to have done their job. The accounts receivable person needs to have done their job. And some of
Mm-hmm.
the things I do and I send to the director, then they need to do their job. So it's pretty much a teamwork when you start working industry. It's different
Mm-hmm.
from when you're on the auditing side.
Okay, okay. So how long does it take to attain a CPA designation?
Well, it depends how smart you are, but
Okay.
and but
Hmm.
usually it's because you first have to get an accounting degree,
Yeah.
and sometimes before you apply to the CPA, they'll ask you if you have the prerequisites, which sometimes are different courses that you have to take either with CPA or you can take them
Mm-hmm.
with your university. The smart ones will usually figure out what courses they are so that by the time they've done their degree, they've completed all the courses, though you don't need to do more courses after you've done the degree. So you can
Mm-hmm.
jump straight into the program. And the program is you can go through the program in almost say a year and a half, but usually one of the requirements is that you've done at least 2.5 years of experience, which means you have to work for your company, or nowadays it's not only an accounting firm. Some companies have become training offices.
Mm-hmm.
So you work there 20, is it 30 months? Then you can get your CPA. But within those 30 months, you're supposed to be doing exams. There's like 6 of them, core one, core two. Then depending on your specialization, you might either do tax and audit or do finance or performance management. And
Mm-hmm.
then you do, I think it's called what do they call, capstone one and capstone
Okay.
two. Capstone one is pretty much where you work as a project. On a project, they'll assign you, CPA assigns you like 3 or 4 people that you've never met before. Most of the time, you work on
Mm-hmm.
a project and you get marked on it at the end of it all, and then you get to do a presentation in front of a panel, and
Uh-huh.
then they'll give you a mark whether you pass or you don't. But usually, if you don't make it, they'll usually give you feedback right away and then say, okay, you didn't make it, but they'll schedule you. I think it's about a few days or a week or so
Mm-hmm.
to have a redo. And most cases, people, because they've given you feedback and everything, it makes it possible to actually pass.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, you go to capstone two, which is pretty much you're now doing practice exams for the main exam, which they call the CFE.
Mm-hmm.
The CFE is written in 3 days. If I remember well, day one is 4 hours. Day two, I'm gonna say day one is 4 hours. Day two is 5 hours. Day three is
Wow.
4 hours. So, and they're written back to back. It's usually Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
Mm-hmm.
So if you pass that, then you wait. I think it's written in September. Then you wait until December to actually get your results to find out if you made it or not. And then from there, once
Uh-huh.
you've made it, you then, if you've passed and you've satisfied the required hours, then you can send in an application to CPA to actually attain your designation and the letters as they call it.
Wow,
So it's a
that's a
pretty
long.
lengthy process.
It does sound pretty lengthy. So you said, I guess, minimum after getting your degree, then kind
Right,
of like 1 year, 6 months, then you can have everything done after that. If
right.
mm-hmm.
Actually, 30 months. So that's about
30.
2 years, 2.5 years
Okay. Are
of
there
experience.
levels to it? Like, are there like once is there like a CPA one, or like once you get a CPA, it's
Well, you can get a CPA, but also depending on then what you want to specialize in. I know some people like to do tax. You have to do tax to get the CPA, but after the CPA, you can actually go and do in-depth tax. So that
mm-hmm.
means taking it
Mm-hmm.
another level. The only
Mm-hmm.
thing that I know is that then they have an F CPA, but that's usually for people that have been doing it for over 20 years. And I don't
Mm-hmm.
think there's an exam. It's almost the board that actually recognizes that you've been a CPA, contributing towards
Mm-hmm.
the institute and the industry, and then honors you with that.
Oh, okay. Okay. So what other soft skills does a person need to have to be successful in this profession?
Well, because you work with people, you need
Mm-hmm.
to have people skills, communication skills. Those
Mm-hmm.
are a good thing. And because we have a pretty hectic, busy, busy season. I repeat, busy season, because sometimes you
Mm-hmm.
can work, especially when you're auditing, it's almost 15, 16 hours a day,
Wow.
and busy season runs from about mid-January to about after personal tax, which is like April, May. Then
Mm-hmm.
that's when people use say, oh, like now we can breathe.
Yeah.
But also sometimes you're doing a lot of things on the go. So time management skills is also one important thing that you need to have as an accountant.
Mm-hmm.
So because most of these things have deadlines, so you don't want to miss the client's deadlines. You need to file
Mm-hmm.
things on a specific time, and
Mm-hmm.
sometimes they bring it in. It's not professional like S2. If somebody gives you a file today and 3 months later you're still holding on to the file, the sooner it comes in and you get it out, the better.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, that definitely makes sense. That definitely makes sense. So, what kind of jobs can one get with a CPA designation?
CPA designation, let's
Mm-hmm.
see, because as I mentioned before, there's like
Mm-hmm.
almost 4 areas that the CPAs have. They have, you can either specialize in tax
Mm-hmm.
or in audit, I guess
Mm-hmm.
assurance as they call it, and either finance, or you can even do performance management.
Mm-hmm.
So you can be either working for an accounting firm. Most people usually, if they finish the CPA, they don't even leave the accounting firm. They just climb the
Mm-hmm.
ladder and end up being partners at an accounting firm. Some
Mm-hmm.
even go to industry where you can be a financial analyst
Mm-hmm.
or a financial accountant, a controller, director of finance, depending on your experience.
Mm-hmm.
And pretty much is transferable to almost any industry, because accounting, every type of business that is registered will need an accountant at some point in time. So
Mm-hmm.
it opens doors, and they say you get a better salary. I'm still waiting for that.
Uh-huh.
So that's it. And I think some people, even in marketing, I know some people that do marketing that actually do CPAs, and some people go in and advise businesses, and
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, we can help you improve your business. They'll sit down, study the business, and say, okay, we see your weaknesses here, we see your strengths here. We think if you work on
Mm-hmm.
this, might
Mm-hmm.
improve here and there.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one of the those are some of the things that actually you could do.
You can do. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Okay. So right now, the accounting industry, what are the trends in terms of employment outlook?
Employment outlook. Well, sometimes if you go, I usually just check on Indeed, and you find that there are a wide variety of jobs there, and it all depends on what. The important thing is to know what you would like to do.
Mm-hmm.
And in that case, if you know what you'd like to do, then it makes the job hunt a little easy. But
Mm-hmm.
it all depends on the preference. Some people want to stay in what we call public practice. If you work in an accounting firm, they want to do that for the rest of their lives. Some people just
Mm-hmm.
want to get the designation and then start looking elsewhere. Some people
Mm-hmm.
actually get the designation and start their own business. Not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily an accounting firm, but maybe start a business doing something else. Like,
Mm-hmm.
the company that went down, the Canadian company, BlackBerry, that was started by guys that were CPAs, but
Oh,
unfortunately it's no
okay.
longer there.
Yeah.
So it's a tool that at least you've gained the knowledge. You can actually take it to anywhere you want to take it to.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay, definitely. So, another question. So, what challenges do you think people that are coming into this industry right now, what challenges do you think they might face at this time?
Well, here's the thing. CPA, I think when I was reading last time, those that wrote the exam last year, September,
Mm-hmm.
they say they graduated almost, is it 700 CPAs?
Mm-hmm.
So that means 700 CPAs coming into the job market, right?
Oh, mm-hmm.
So it's constantly being, okay, are you in demand? What's going on? And right now the economy is not too good, so jobs might not be as available as they were, a few years back. But having that CPA is usually a plus.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where usually the good thing is the CPA will have networking events where you can go in, network, and then meet new
Mm-hmm.
employers, get to meet people, because nowadays jobs are pretty much, even if you see them Indeed, sometimes most people get the jobs because they know somebody in a
Yeah.
company. So
Mm-hmm.
it's important to actually have those contacts. I know
Mm-hmm.
it's hard sometimes to come out of our shell, but usually it's better when you actually go out there, meet people. They'll introduce you to people if they like you. And see, another soft skill is to be likable. I don't know how you're going to get that, but
Mm-hmm.
it's one of those things that actually will help.
Mm-hmm.
Because coming into the industry, when I started, when I finished college, I got the prerequisites, but to get the actual job at an accounting firm, because I was working for the company that could do it, but because of the job that I was doing, I felt I wouldn't get enough experience. So I wanted to go to an accounting firm where I'll work with different types of industries. Then at least I'll gain more. I sent out, like I always tell people, I sent out like 21 resumes, but I only got one. I only got one interview, and with that one interview, I got hired. So, and with the accounting field, what happens is you apply a year in advance. So you usually get your job before you actually finish your degree sometimes. So I'm sure by now that's when the hiring is happening. They're actually looking into it. Or by now they actually know if they have a job starting September or not.
Oh, okay.
So if you're looking for a job to start in 2019, you're probably too late because the most accounting firms have actually hired.
Do they hire?
Sorry?
Oh, sorry, I was gonna ask. Do they hire like in September so that they get ready for that busy season that you were talking about, like January to April?
Right. Pretty much most of the starts are in September, so that at least they'll teach you the software, they'll teach you everything. Then come January, you're up and running. Now you bring up another thing where I always tell people, don't wait until it's your last year. In any summer, once you start your degree, if you know already, because most people, they'll start a degree, but they don't really know what they want to do. But if you know you want to be an accountant, start looking for co-op summer jobs. A lot of accounting companies will actually hire you. Because when I started there, I knew accounting, but I knew the textbook, and the university I went to didn't train us on the software. So to me, the hardest thing to start with was learning the software. And if you put in a class where guys have been doing co-op training throughout university, when they get there, they hit the ground running. But some of us will wait until we're done the degree, then we move on. But if you could do it during the summer break in school, find an accounting job, then by the time you're done, and if you already found it as a junior, chances are most people will rehire you once you've done the degree. So usually it's a step ahead.
Okay, that definitely makes sense. Now, question about your business. You said you have a business, MAN. So how do you go?
Yes.
Yes, how do you go about establishing that business?
Well, just for a side note, that business was just established. I thought it would be established by late last year, but only got established beginning of this year, because I didn't anticipate, because accounting is a highly regulated industry. It's not like I just go to the registries and say I want to start up a company and boom, I have a company. No, it's once I want to start a company, I have to send an application, send it to CPA, and it's called, the first application is an assessment. They assess your skills, they assess your experience, they assess everything. That's 4 to 6 weeks of waiting. And usually they'll come back and say, well, this and that. And once they say, okay, fine, you've been assessed, these are the things that you could do. Because with accounting, there's a whole lot of areas that you could do, right? So I wanted to do a lot of them. So I can do tax, I can do audits, I can do reviews, I can do compilations, NTRs, which are basically just financial statements. I can do business services, come in, internal controls and all the fun stuff. I can pretty much do most of the things. Whereas some people, like this, if they didn't go through a public company where they do audits and stuff, they can't do audits. So they want to assess that, see the number of hours. Then they'll tell you, okay, after I've assessed you, this is what we think you can do. This is what you're allowed to do services on. And once you start your company, then you can now apply to do that. So they assist you, they tell you this. So now you have to apply again. Now it's okay, I want to register my own company now. And then there's another form you fill in, you submit, and then it goes another review. Then they'll tell you want ABC, like liability insurance, all the fun stuff. So it does take a while for you to actually get that. So I'll say, for people, especially if they want to do an accounting firm, give it anywhere between 4 to 6 months to actually get everything in order. Because I wanted to be up and running. Good, thank God I did manage to, for the busy season where I'll do taxes and all the fun stuff.
Okay, so what services does your business offer currently?
Well, I offer my business. I would like to believe that the direction I'm wanting to take is more of focusing on companies and less on personal tax. I like more corporations, because I guess because of the money, and also because I'm also targeting, our people. to be
Mm-hmm.
correct. And then because I feel sometimes our people need that person to sit down with them and explain a few things, educate them after, not just do the work and pass them the work. You know, actually have that sit down, give them a few things on how they could actually improve the company based on the numbers, give them analysis. Hey, based on the numbers, this is what I see. This is, I think, where your weaknesses are. I think if you improve here, it'll make you more money. Or if you did this, it will save you on taxes and stuff like that. So that's why you can do a whole lot with that in a company than you would do with an individual. But having said that, we do corporate tax, personal tax. Those with GST problems, they can see me. Those that want audits, reviews, financial statements, they can come see me. And I also will do business services. If I come in, like I mentioned, come in, see what your company does, look at it, review a few things, give you advice at the end of the day on what I think is the best practice. So those are the pretty much the areas that anything to do with accounting, pretty much. Anything that has to do with numbers in your business, you can see me. Because some people, most companies, if they get a loan from the bank will require either they do what we call a review or they'll do an audit. So those are the things that I can do. And once you do that, then we can come in, work on it, and usually has a deadline. So usually people make sure when you know your stuff, when you know you have those requirements from the bank, give your accountant enough time to do the work.
Would you advise, another question, so do you also serve small business companies, like just startup companies, or you have to have a certain amount of assets or income to be able to see an accountant?
No, it's anytime. An accountant comes even before you even start your business. We'll give you the advice, we'll give you the tools, and sometimes some people know they want to start a company, but they don't know what to do. So we might have that, recommend certain things. Sometimes there's certain things, well, for me, my thing is also to kind of save your money, because some people think certain things need to be done by, maybe an accountant or maybe a lawyer, when certain things you can do them by yourself. It's just taking the time to do it. So those are some of the things that, in the startup process, we could actually help you do that. And then because right now, every company is required to file for taxes every year. So we will do that. And then sometimes some people get, maybe they forget to file, and then the CRA sends them, revenue counsel, hey, dude, we want this, and they don't know what to do. They can come see me. We'll deal with that. We'll help them work through that as well. So whether it's a small business, medium business, which is pretty much what I'm into, but even large corporations as well, I can probably help with that as well.
Okay, that's good to know. That's good to know. We have a question here. So are you hiring CPA students who are looking into gaining experience?
My goal is to actually start doing that. But before I do that, there's one requirement when I inquired with CPA. It's called, they want me to first go through a review. And because this is my first year, I haven't gotten a review. So I put in the application. The application is pending. And once I get the review, then I'll be able to hire students and then actually have their hours that they put in work towards getting their CPA.
Okay.
So it's something I'm working on, because to me, I don't know if I'll be politically correct to say, well, maybe it's because I'm a person of color, because you know how when you put your resume, my name is Bidwentenlo. Sometimes when they look at that name, sometimes it's not a really good look. But to me, I would like to actually give be an equal opportunity employer.
Definitely. That's very
So
good.
that's definitely tell the person that soon hit me up next year. I'll probably have a lot of clients to actually hire a lot of people, because I'm starting. I only have a few clients, but I'm working on it.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, all right, thank you. We'll keep that in mind for next year, definitely. So what has this profession taught you personally?
Well, what the profession has actually taught me personally is there are ways to save money or save on taxes that some of us, especially those of us who are immigrants, first immigrants, that I wouldn't have known until I got into the profession. There's a thing called tax planning. Most people think you just file for taxes, But
Mm-hmm.
there's a thing called tax planning where you can actually plan to structure things such that either you pay less tax or you defer taxes. You don't pay them now, you pay them later. And there's
Mm-hmm.
benefits for doing that. So those are some of the things that to me was okay. I come in, the Canadians here, born here, and maybe third, fourth generations that are thriving, and they're using the tools and within the guidelines of everything that's required by the CRA. Why can't we tap into that and actually use that knowledge to empower those of us that are immigrants as well?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay, definitely. So that kind of leads me to my next couple of questions. Just asking for
Right.
general tips, since we're coming to the tax season. So, what do you think? What general tips can you give us that can help us this coming tax season?
Here's my tip that I usually give, which I've seen a lot of people are scared to get knowledge of tax information.
Mm-hmm.
But when you come to me, I'm doing this on your behalf. So if
Mm-hmm.
you don't take, if it's not important to you, it probably, even if I were to tell you something, will go through one ear and out the other ear. So the
Mm-hmm.
good thing is also take interest in your financial well-being. Taxes is not just because you're not doing it because the government requires you to file taxes. There
Mm-hmm.
are ways that you could do and structure. And after you've given the accountant, you know, hey, dude, do my taxes. Then
Mm-hmm.
you can ask him, what options do I have to actually maybe defer taxes or to lessen my taxes? Then they'll give you options. They'll tell you maybe you either put your money in RSP if you're a personal tax. If it's a company, they'll give you other options that are available to the type of industry that you're in.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So the thing is also take an interest in your financial well-being. You may a simple question like, okay, I know this is what it is this year. Okay, fine, you've calculated it to be this much. Is there anything I could do to lower this tax bill next year?
Oh,
That
okay.
those kind of questions. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Then that way, it's not a matter of the person taking papers telling you, okay, this year you're getting a $500 refund. There's your paper. Then you're happy for the $500. You're taking your money and you go.
Mm-hmm.
So you ask him, okay, I've only got 500 return. Is there anything that I can do to get more return next year? Or if you're owing, what can I do to make sure that I don't owe or I owe less?
Mm-hmm.
So those are the type of questions that I would do it. And the other tip too is plan early, because I know for a lot of personal tax people, there is a window that CRA gives for you to put away money, and when you put away money, it lowers your income. So, but that has to happen before the last day of February. So tomorrow will be the last day if you wanted to
Mm-hmm.
utilize that, because
Yeah.
it then lowers your income and then you're paying tax on a lower income.
Mm-hmm.
But if you didn't know that and you're waiting for your T4s, um, by the time you get the T4s, might be even after February, then there's no room to do that. So my
Mm-hmm.
tip would be, once you get your last salary pay stub, you can actually even use that, send it to your accountant. Okay, dude, this is where I'm at. This is what I have. I want to know what I could do while I still have time. So you can work on it January, and then if you still have money, then there are things that we could do before the close of the deadline to
Mm-hmm.
actually save that money in an RSP account or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that definitely makes sense. So when is like what is the window to start doing your taxes? Like when is the earliest you can do them and the latest you can do it before?
Okay, this is what I usually do.
Mm-hmm.
December, I start looking into ways of structuring moving around my money so it works for me.
Mm-hmm.
So December, you probably haven't had much information. It's more of, you're thinking about it. It's at the back of your head. Then come the first week of January, you probably would have gotten your pay stub, which will actually give you
Mm-hmm.
how much you earned in the whole of the last year, how much taxes you
Mm-hmm.
paid and everything. Now you can give that to your accountant and say, okay, in the meantime, this is what I have. What can I do?
Mm-hmm.
But the earliest you can file, I know people can start filing as of I think last Saturday. CRA opened the portal so they can start filing. But the last
Mm-hmm.
day is usually to file is the last is the last day of April. And if
Oh,
that
okay.
day falls on a weekend, then you'll get Monday. The following Monday will be the last day to file your taxes.
Mm-hmm.
But don't always wait till the last day, because sometimes when people are rushing to do that,
Mm-hmm.
errors can be made, things like that. So the sooner you do it, the better.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And what are the consequences for, let's say, I don't file my taxes by the last day of April? What are the consequences?
Well, there's two things.
Mm-hmm.
The first one being, are you owing taxes or are you getting a refund? If you're
Oh,
getting
okay.
a refund, there's usually less of a fuss, because hey, we didn't have any, you're not owing any money.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're actually uh, owing the government money, then there's a
Mm-hmm.
late fee, and then late filing fee, which is also dependent. It accumulates day by day, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a certain percentage. I think it's 1.5% to a maximum of is it 1,500 or 2,000? But it also depends on how many employees you have. How big of a company are you? So
Mm-hmm.
those things also come into effect.
Mm-hmm.
So to me is, don't let it fall behind. Besides, what happens is, if you don't file, then your account may be, and I say maybe, I'm not saying it's a definite, maybe flagged by CRA, such that when you file, then they're over scrutinizing it, and sometimes you don't want them over scrutinizing
Oh,
your
okay.
file. So
Mm-hmm.
always, being a good person that files on time usually helps. Take some, because some people, if you don't file for a number of years, then that's when you trigger an audit. Then CRA wants to audit you and find out why you're not filing. Especially if you're a business, they'll look at the other businesses that are similar to yours and say, well, the
Mm-hmm.
other business are paying so much. This guy hasn't filed, so probably the guy owes us this money. So then they'll come after you. So to avoid all that,
Mm-hmm.
file your taxes on time.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that definitely makes sense. We have a question here. So,
All
what's
right.
the major difference between the stuff done by people who got their designation before the merge, so CMA, CGAs, and CA, and the ones that got their designation after the merge, so CPA?
Okay, that's a pretty interesting question.
Mm,
To me, it's pretty much, it doesn't matter what designation you had. It's what practice did they do? Because some people, I know, if they did CMA, some of them, not all, some of them would have majored mainly in managerial accounting. So taxes might not be their strong suit. Whereas CAs the only way to get a CA was to go through a public company. And most of the public companies, they have to do taxes. Most companies are just there to doing taxes. You're doing the financial statements, you're doing the taxes. Whereas some CGAs also had that option, and they also did that. So it's not necessarily a designation. It's what the person actually majored in during those hours they were articling. That will
mm-hmm,
determine how much experience they have.
mm-hmm,
But sometimes for a person that only works one job for personal taxes, one job, they only have one T4, pretty much anybody can do it. That's why even people that do it HR block, most of them don't even have a designation. They just punch things into the system, and then boom,
mm-hmm,
they'll tell you the refund. Whereas if you're more of a company, or if you start having investments, you start having, maybe you have rental property, you have all that fun stuff, then somebody designated might have um, more benefits or more ways for you to save on taxes or to structure your companies or your things than somebody working at HR block.
mm-hmm. Oh, okay, okay, definitely. Well, she's trying to get her CPA, so this
No,
probably,
tell her get it. Tell
yeah,
her to get it.
well,
And she
that's.
needs to start
Mhm,
marketing, networking right now. Anything she needs, she go to the CPA website. They always have advertising
mhm,
workshops. There's quite a number that are free. Some you have to pay.
mhm,
And I'll say go for the free, since you're still a student. They're just as good.
mhm,
Then you'll meet some CPAs. Just presentably present yourself. They'll
mhm,
like you.
mhm, mhm. Definitely good advice. So, what other advice can you give to people who are looking to get their CPA designation?
What other advice? What other advice?
Mhm,
Well, to me, CPA did open a few doors, and because when I
mhm,
was looking, I got the job and pretty much what I wanted,
mhm,
and it leaves room for you to pick and choose. Whereas sometimes, if you don't have any education or anything,
Mm-hmm.
whatever comes your way, you take it. You end up working at a job because you want to pay the rent, not because you like the job, or it's
Mm-hmm.
not the company that you want to work for. Homo Trust Edmonton, the reason why I chose Homo Trust Edmonton, it's not for profit, it's a non-profit organization. Its main mandate is to eradicate homelessness in Edmonton. So to me, that was a noble cause. That's why I actually went there. And
Mm-hmm.
for somebody going in, you also, once you have a CPA, you can actually pick and choose where you want to go. It opens a number of doors.
Mm-hmm.
But study, study, study. And one thing I always tell people is, and I'm hoping their young people are going to listen to this, is there's this notion that, well, I'll take a year off school, I'll take that, in as much as for some people it's good, but in general, sometimes 1 year turns into 5 years, and then and so forth and so forth. And what that does is you start earning, you take 15 years to get your CPA. Then you start earning a CPA salary after 15 years. When you could have done your CPA, and after 3 years, you've done the degree, you can start earning a CPA salary. Your earning power you'll get way before, than if you procrastinate. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes when you do get older, you have to read the textbook twice in order for you to get it. Whereas when you're younger, your comprehension and your retention is usually, more, you know,
Mm-hmm.
because
Mm-hmm.
for some of us that like the good stuff, we burn out our brain cells a little when we drink that stuff. It takes effect.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. That definitely makes sense. Well, that's all the questions that I had for you today. Thank you so much for coming on. Before we
Well,
get
thank you.
off, is there anything else you wanted to add on?
Sure. I was
Mm-hmm.
listening to one time, and I wanted to. Unfortunately, sometimes I miss your live, but then
Mm-hmm.
sometimes when I get home, I do play it back if it's still
Mm-hmm.
available. And there was one time I think it was talking about Black History Month, and somebody mentioned that some companies are supposed to have, equal opportunity. They're supposed to hire certain people and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I tried to look for that law. I didn't see it. So I think that's more of a myth than a
Mm-hmm.
fact. But my advice is, and I say this to my people,
Mm-hmm.
let's try to go to school to start our own businesses so we can hire the people we want to hire. Let's not go to school so that we can become employees. I commend guys that do trucking. I see my friend Norman is online. They're doing their own business. He can hire whoever he wants. We're not knocking on every door looking for opportunities. And I know you had LC Freight. He runs his own business. You gain
Mm-hmm.
control. And guess what? Another interesting thing is a business can make half a million, less than a business that makes half a million in a year is taxed at almost 15%, that whole half a million. But if you're an employee, if you make more than 47,000, the money after that 47,000 is taxed at 20.6%.
Wow.
So to me, it pays to be a business. So even if for some people that have certain jobs, like say construction work, you can actually
Mm-hmm.
look into you being a contractor, subcontractor instead of being an employee. That gives you a little leeway. So those
Mm-hmm.
are some of the things that probably H&R Block is not going to give you. But if you come to MJ and accounting, we'll definitely be able to help you with things like that.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. That definitely makes sense. We got a comment here saying you're very wise. So definitely good advice right there.
Well, thank you. But spread the word. We have to
Mm-hmm.
be business owners. Even if you don't come to me as an accountant, but there's a lot of you put your own fate in your own hands when you start a business.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
know being an employee is good because every 2 weeks or every mid-month you get a paycheck. But in most cases, one person once wrote that a salary is the money they pay you to forget about your dream. So if you have a dream, go for it.
Mm-hmm. 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 Well, good words. Definitely. Thank you so much for coming on. I'll definitely listen to those words and hopefully we can all apply them to our lives as it
Or
definitely to make sense. Thank you so much,
thank you
Edgar.
very much.
I appreciate it.
Thank you for having